All right. Hey, can't believe school is starting already. Welcome back. It's an exciting time of year. We're gonna get started here. We are working with frequency tables, two-way frequency tables today, and we're going to be talking about just how to read them, what they're used for, and really it's just data analysis. Like when you're looking at data, what does it actually mean? Like what are we when we start asking questions about data, like how do we come to those conclusions, and how do we actually start putting the data in a form that is usable by us? I have our first warm-up that we already did in class. Hopefully we did in class, and it's pretty straightforward. It has a bunch of different ways of getting to school, and there's bus, car, walk, car, bus, walk, walk, and all that kind of stuff. And so there's three different ways that we got to school. There was a bus, there was a car, and there was walking. And bus occurred 8 times, car occurred 6 times, and walking occurred 5 times. And that just means I went through and I said, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 buses, and that was 8. I just counted them up. And so that's really, we're just counting data at that point. We're getting to the data. Okay, so now let's get down to here. It says, complete the two-way frequency table of paired values. Kevin asked some randomly selected students whether they preferred dogs, cats, or other pets. He also recorded the gender of each student. So gender, male, female. The results are shown in the two-way frequency table. Okay, so let's see. Kevin gathered this data, and he talked to a bunch of boys and a bunch of girls, and he recorded who he talked to. And so we know that out of the boys, 8 of them liked dogs, 7 of them liked cats, and then one of them liked another. Maybe it was a snake, maybe it was a lizard, maybe it was a rabbit, something other than a dog or a cat. And so if we want to know how many boys there were total, we would say, well, we can just add up the number of boys that were surveyed for that like dogs, that like cats, and other, and then we just add them straight up. And so we have 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 1 more is 16. Okay, so now there's 16 boys total. Okay, and 8 of them like dogs, 7 of them like cats, 1 of them liked another. And then if we want to know how many girls were surveyed, we have 10, 5, and 9. So we have 10 plus 9 is 19, plus 5 is 24. Okay, so there was 24 girls surveyed. So now we know we could ask the question and say, how many boys were surveyed? And we could say, well, there were 16 boys surveyed. How many girls were surveyed? And well, there's 24 girls surveyed. But what if I asked the question that said, how many people like dogs? Whether they were boys or girls, how many people like dogs? Well, you would take the dogs here and you would add them up, and you would say 8 plus 10 is 18. How many people like cats? And you would say, well, 7 plus 5 is 12. And then how many people like something other than a dog or a cat? And then you would have 10. Okay. All right. So what if I asked you the question and I said, how many people were surveyed altogether? Right? Well, if we add up our 2 boys and girls total, it should be 16. So 6 plus 4 is 10. Okay. Carry our 1. And then 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. So there was 40 people surveyed. And we should actually get the same number over here. So 18 plus 12 is 30. 30 plus 10 is 40. So that makes sense. That works for us, okay? All right, so now let's answer some questions about our data too. We can say, which pet is most preferred? Well, if we look at our total numbers down here, we're talking about figuring out the most preferred. So out of all the animals that we talked about here, we have dogs. Dogs are most preferred, okay, at 18. Okay, so there's 18 dogs. Which one was least preferred? Well, it was kind of in the other column, right? Like we could say, well, the cat was least preferred than the dog, but of the other is really the lowest one, right? And there were 10 of them, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys try out on this one, and then we can talk about the answers in class. So I would like you to find the totals, right? And think about how we did that up here. We added up all the boys to find out the total over here, how many boys, how many girls, we added up the total that way. Then we added this way, right? And then we figured out the grand total, which was adding our two subtotals up. Okay, so it says complete the two-way frequency table of paired values. Miguel surveyed 100 students about whether they like soccer or football. Okay, so there's important information in here. How many students did he survey? Well, it says right here that he surveyed 100 students. So where could we put that number right away so that we didn't even have to do any math later on? Okay, think about where this one would go. So if I asked you in number 3 and I said, how many total students were surveyed, you would say there were 40 students surveyed. Well, it didn't tell us that up here, but it's telling us in this problem. So we can figure out that we can actually put that 100 right there. We can just drop it right in. And so now I want you to figure out how many people did they survey that liked football, okay? So if we say liked football, well, you would add these two up. Didn't like football, add these two up, okay? And then we have like soccer, and you would add those two up, and so on. Okay, so I want you guys to give that a try, and then we'll go over that one in class. All right. All right. So on our backside here, we have 100 students. Okay, so we're just doing another two-way frequency table, but we're missing some data. It says 100 students were surveyed about which beverage they chose at lunch. Some of the results were shown in a two-way frequency table below. Complete the table. Okay, so if we take a look at our two-way frequency table here, we got some information already in there, and we could definitely fill out this one, we could fill out here and here. But things that we can't fill out, we couldn't fill out how many people like milk, because we don't know how many boys like milk. We couldn't fill out how many boys total, because we don't know how many boys like milk, right? So what are we going to do here? Because we don't have enough information in our table per se to figure out and fill in some of the blanks here. Well, if we know that, if we go back and we look at our what we're given here, it says 100 students were surveyed. Well, just like that last one, if it's telling us the total, we can actually plop that guy right in there. Okay, so we have 100 students surveyed. Okay, well, now if we start filling in some blanks here, we can actually, we start adding some things in here, we can kind of work backwards through our frequency table. So we can say 15 plus 24, so that's, well, 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 10, so that's 39, plus 1 is 40, so we have 60. Okay, so these all add up to 60. You could use a calculator, got them in the back of the room. You could use a calculator, add that up, and you would get 60. So 15 plus 24 plus 21, okay, is 60. So then we can actually work backwards and say, well, what about this number right here? Well, if I know that this plus this should equal 100, I can say, well, 100 minus 60 is 40. Okay, so now we've actually worked backwards a little bit because we've stuck the 100 down here, right? So we added these up and we got 60. We know this is 100, so 60 plus 40 is 100. All right, so now we can actually start going back the other way, right? We can say, well, if this is 10 plus something plus 17 equals 40, right? Well, I can start kind of working backward. I can say, well, 40 minus 10 is 30, and then 30 minus 17 is 13. So I know there were 13 people that liked milk. And once I have this guy filled in, it's just straight adding here. 10 plus 15 is 25, okay? 13 plus 24 is 37. So 3 plus 4 is 7, 3 plus 2, or 1 plus 2 is 3, and 7 plus 1 is 8, 1 plus 2 is 3, and then 25 plus 37 plus 38 is 100. Okay, so which beverage was preferred the least? Okay, so which one did people not like? And how do you know? Okay, so the one that people didn't like was juice, right? It's the one that has the least number, right? So it would be juice. Okay, and this is a really important question that we got to start answering. How do you know? Because 25 is less then 37, 30, or 38. Okay, so it could be as simple as that. Like I'm looking for the obvious statement here. It's the smallest number. You could even say it's the smallest number. So you're gonna keep working through these, guys. You'll be done with the lesson once we get to the next section. Okay, so we'll start looking for number 1 again. But this is really lesson number 1, day 1. So I want you guys to be successful. Start filling in the blanks. Go through and keep practicing. This should be enough of a practice for you. So good luck. I'm excited about the year, and I'll see you in class.